Yeah, I remember that 2020 or Dateline or whatever that expose was. Well, that raises a whole additional set of issues. I mean, particularly if or since many of the bodies are from executed prisoners in China, which China, of course, has a track record with regards to human rights abuses and things like that. Well, my simple reaction is I find it all fairly morally dubious.
Okay.
I wonder. It'd be interesting. I mean, I wonder if the company or people ever has pursued trying to find willing donors.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why they thought we need to get these bodies from wherever.
Yeah.
Instead of
asking.
Right.
Well, I just wanted your sort of off the cuff as a man who's a philosopher who walks around looking at life through a different lens than we do.
Right. Well, I'd be real interested to see what they have to say about that.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting how thoughtful they are about
how uncomfortable they are.
Whatever.
Right.
And sometimes organizations like that might have like a Q&A type thing on their webpage and wonder.
We'll have to check into that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and I have read several of your other articles and looked at your curricula vitae, and you've written quite a few articles on animal experimentation. Is this, did you come upon this just academically, or is this a passionate pursuit of yours that developed somewhere else, this desire to help animals, or?
Well, I've been interested in these issues for I guess probably around a dozen or 15 years or so. And I learned about them initially in a philosophy course.
Okay.
Prior to then, I had never thought about these sorts of topics. And I think about and write about and teach about all sorts of other issues as well. And a lot of them are connected in certain ways to this topic. So another topic that I've written some about is abortion and stem cell research and things like that. And there's actually some overlap in the concepts between the two issues. But I guess I tend to find myself attracted to issues that ordinary people think about.
Right.
And they often think about perhaps in not the best ways they can. There's various challenges that people have in thinking about certain sorts of issues.
Right.
And some of the challenges are cognitive or intellectual. We're not trained in thinking about moral issues all that well.
Right.
And philosophers, I think, uniquely have that training.
Right.
If anybody wonders what that training's like, I'd encourage them to take a good philosophy course.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of concepts and a little bit of that you can learn. People can learn a little logic, which is basically just a little math that can help people think about controversial issues in a more productive way.
Okay.
And I guess on the other hand, challenging issues sometimes are challenging because they make personal demands on us.
Yeah, and we go back to experimentation. Yeah.
Right. So people, again, tend to be resistant to change,
Yeah.
and so that often sometimes results in people thinking not very carefully about a topic,
Okay.
maybe responding poorly
Yeah.
about the topic. So I don't know. These are just so animal issues are just sort of one of the many issues that fits into this category of controversial issues that I find interesting and hope to help people think more carefully about.
Okay.
So,
because this is the AUC author series,
mm-hmm.
we're always thinking about our students who are out there, or other faculty that you've written quite a lot, and they might be thinking about writing and how do I get started, how do I do it? Do you have any sort of tips? Or what helped you get started with writing?
Well, obviously, I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I got to graduate school, master's and PhD program, that I realized that I needed to and wanted to become a better writer.
Mm.
And there were two small books that I found especially helpful.
Huh?
One of them is called Strunk and White's The Elements of Style.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of a classic.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
Elements of Style.
Yep. And the other book is a little logic book called A Rule Book for Arguments by Anthony Weston.
Okay.
But I think in terms of writing, maybe some good advice is to try to make things as simple as possible. Use the simplest words you can.
Right.
Shortest sentences you possibly can.
Okay.
And I think to become a better writer, oftentimes, well, I think it always just requires a lot of reflection and practice. Reflective practice.
Okay.
Write something, think about, how could this be better?
Right.
What would make this easier to read?
Right.
What would, what would make it easier to read?
Okay.
So,
Good.
that's my
All right.
advice.
Good.
I think becoming a better writer is just something that if you want to do it, well, it has to be a pretty self-motivated sort of thing.
Yes, sit down and do it.
Yeah, nobody else can make you a better writer. I mean, of course, people can help you by reading things that you write and saying this doesn't make any sense, or you could shorten this a lot, or get to the point. I don't know. I guess it depends on your temperament.
Right.
I like things to be as brief to the point as possible.
Right.
So I tend to try to figure out what's the shortest, briefest way I could say this.
All right.
And part of my motivation in that attitude is thinking that, look, people out there are busy.
Right.
And there's a lot of things they could read.
Right.
And, if I'm reading something, I don't want to wade through a bunch of this and that to get to whatever I want to find. So, I guess I kind of have a golden rule about writing.
Yeah.
So
how can I reach the tweet generation?
Right. And, I mean, people have always been like that.
Yeah.
It's always easier to do something else than expend the energy in thinking about stuff.
Right.
So,
because this is also done at the library.
Yes.
We're wondering has the library helped you in your research? This paper or other papers you've done, other research you've done?
Other research, yes. This paper, there wasn't really a whole lot of, say, scholarly research involved in that. in some papers, articles, I discuss things that people say and quote them and stuff like that.
Okay.
There's other times where that's not necessary,
Right.
at least in philosophy.
Okay.
So that's the approach I took with that paper. I said I don't really talk about anybody in particular. I've done that in many other places. If you
Right.
want to see that, you can find that. So, sort of as I mentioned, I've been writing things about this for a while.
Right.
So I think I've built up some observations about how people often think about these topics and often react. But one far more scholarly project that I've been working on for a while and hope to, I need to revise it a little more and send it back out somewhere, is I've used the library to, let me back up and say that totally different project is that I teach philosophy of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we're encouraged at Morehouse, and I assume all of the AUC schools, to try to integrate African American and Africana sources
Right.
into courses where possible.
Mm-hmm.
And this is desirable in philosophy courses, of course. And I teach philosophy of religion. And so a few years ago, decided that I should try to find more Africana sources
Mm-hmm.
for philosophy of religion. And I spent quite a long time in the library trying to find sources that address the question of why, if there were a God, God would allow slavery,
Mm-hmm.
racism,
Mm-hmm.
lynchings, discrimination, injustice, things like that.
Right.
So the question, the broad question is, if there were a God, why would there be certain kinds of evils?
Right.
And the more particular question would be, if there were a God, why would there be various race-based
Mm-hmm.
evils?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that there's been discussion of that question by African Americans throughout history.
Right.
And I was eventually able to find in our library some books that document historical proposals to
Right.
here's why
Right. Yeah.
here's why God allowed
Right.
slavery,
Okay.
and so on and so forth. So finding these resources where African Americans discuss here's why God might allow these various evils
Mm-hmm.
to happen to us was pretty hard. I went through all the sort of traditional or typical ways that you would do philosophical research and try to
Right.
find philosophical resources.
Right.
But going those ways, I didn't come up with anything. So I went in through sort of a religious studies, church materials route,
Okay.
and was able to find some things that are very interesting, very valuable, very useful for classroom discussion, has all sorts of research potential, but the materials are hard to find.
Right.
So basically what I did was I found it and I've sort of repackaged a lot of it with the hopes that people will use these materials more in classroom and delve into it more deeply.
Great. So, Dr. Nobis,
Oh.
what do you have coming up? What's your next project? Your next research?
In the fall, I hope to finish a little textbook that is kind of a combination of introductory logic combined with moral issues. So I have a little kind of a format or schema that I use to discuss issues or have students discuss issues in class. And I would like to convert this into a little book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's an intro to ethics book that's unique in that it's much of the content that comes about from the book is from classroom discussion. And instead of telling students, here's a bunch of arguments about abortion or euthanasia or the death penalty or whatever, it provides, or it encourages them to go out and find the arguments, either just by reflecting upon what people say, getting in groups and thinking about what do people say about this topic, maybe doing some internet research, going to the library, and then distilling that down into more simple arguments that we can evaluate. So it basically presents a little logic and how to basically analyze arguments about controversial issues.
Well, we'd like to have you back when that comes out.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Dr. Nobis, thank you very much for being here. We really enjoyed our time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.